Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, my friend.
Welcome to another intentional masterclass with me, Paul, and my good friend and co-host, Francois.
And thankfully this week, not your opponent, but your teammate.
Absolutely. So something we have to discuss before we get to the topic for today, Francois.
Yes.
Firstly, our golf this week. And secondly, why the whiskey? Let's start with the whiskey.
Well, I remember in our previous masterclass that we said, and I think I floated just a random idea past you, why don't we have a glass of whiskey?
Yes.
And I think it was at the back end maybe of celebrating me become a father.
Exactly. That was it. And then something very interesting happened today. This morning I told you I have a surprise for you today.
And I responded, so do I.
And what happened? We both brought whiskey. So, there you go. Cheers. Firstly, to this episode. Secondly, to your fatherhood. And most importantly, to our golf tour that starts tomorrow.
Paul, just a quick comment. Can you believe just the concept of time? Isla is 3 months old today.
That is incredible. Can't believe it's 3 months.
Hey, crazy.
All right, let's just quickly talk about our tour starting tomorrow, and then we're going to get to the topic of today.
Well, it starts for you tomorrow.
Yes, and for you the day after, and that's why you're very jealous today.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. But what a phenomenal moment in our calendars.
Yes.
Right, once a year. And I mean, you've been, this will be number?
Number 15.
Number 15 and number 6 for me.
That's
so
good.
Maybe like 2 sentences for the listeners who are also avid golfers and curious, what is this about?
So firstly, the most amazing golf tour that I've ever been on, that I think anybody has ever been on, to one of the most amazing golf courses in South Africa.
The Northern Cape.
Katu, or
Session. Top 15 in the country?
Number 12 in the country on the Golf Digest Top 100. Yeah, one of the coolest golf experiences in South Africa. One of the greatest golf courses in South Africa.
Number 12.
Number 12 on the Golf Digest Top 100. It's the amazing competition between the Grippets and the Rippets and the Chippets and Lippets.
Yes. And thankfully we're in the same team.
Absolutely. And we can drink today to the Grippets and Rippets.
What a tour. One last comment on it. It is this incredible oasis of a golf course surrounded by red sand. So for any of the listeners who's been to the Northern Cape, mining environment, and it's just this crazy oasis of a golf course.
Incredible.
So excited.
Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend it.
Okay, but we're not here to talk about whiskey today. We're not here to talk about golf.
Even though we might need to do 2 separate episodes on those 2 topics.
Could be. I agree. We're here today to talk about something else. But the whiskey, the golf tours, and more importantly, friendship and experiences is very relevant to the topic today. Yeah. The topic I want to discuss with you is the topic of legacy. So where did this come from?
Sure.
Our previous masterclass we did on fatherhood, somewhere in the beginning of the episode, I gave you a movie quote.
Yeah.
And that movie quote was from one of my favorite movies. I think if I remember correctly, you said it's one of your favorite movies as well.
Is.
And the quote was, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." Now, I changed that quote a little bit for our talk on fatherhood.
Yes.
Which, by the way, you can go and watch. Really amazing exploration of the topic of fatherhood.
Yeah.
But back to that specific quote. I've been thinking about that quote a lot lately again, about the fact that things we do in life echoes in eternity. And it made me think of this topic of legacy and what I wanted to explore around legacy with you today.
Before I think we go there and having me respond to that, maybe someone in the audience was now super curious around how you changed it. So maybe just hoy that one-liner of how you changed that quote.
Okay, so very basically what I said was, I think it's a select few people in life that can really claim that what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, don't do something that the world remembers for long after their death.
Yes.
But I did say that what we do in life echoes in the lives of our children, meaning that we as fathers, but mothers as well, are examples to our children. And what we do can echo in their lives.
Yes.
And that's what I did with the quote.
Fantastic. Now let's go back to today's quote. And this was, by the way, from the movie Gladiator.
Yes, correct.
When I think of that quote and this word legacy, I can't help but have a weight associated with that word, like weightiness or impact, or like it makes me stop, at least personally. It makes me stop and actually think about the quote.
Yeah.
Because legacy, and we're going to unpack it, but it is such a heavy word with many forms of interpretation, which I hope we'll both get to today. But I think as an intro to that quote, what you do in life echoes in eternity, and linking that to legacy is a weighty conversation that I believe, and I'm sure you do too, is at least something one should consider. Yeah. Whether you end up doing it or defining it in the way that works for you, at least stop and think about it.
Agreed. And I did a lot of thinking and research about it. And I found something very interesting. Nobody's 100% sure whether this quote came from somewhere before the movie Gladiator.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to assume that the screenwriters of the movie Gladiator came up with this quote or wrote it into the script. But it's ultimately a quote that is that fundamentally comes from a real person. Mm-hmm. Although it's never been attributed to him saying this, it is fundamental to a lot of his writings. And the guy that it's attributed to is a guy called Marcus Aurelius.
Yes.
A Roman Empire, the father of Stoicism. And it's something that was very foundational to his writing and his thinking.
Sure.
Are you a Stoic?
I am not too sure what that means. Let me be vulnerable and perfectly honest. I've heard of it, but I don't know if I'm confident in describing it.
Okay, so I've been wanting to do an episode on Stoicism for a long time. I've read a lot of books on it. One of my favorite books written by a Stoic is the book called Discipline is Destiny, written by Ryan Holiday. Okay. I've recommended it before on IWPK. And I love just the idea of Stoicism. Now, I'm not going to claim that I'm a Stoic, that it's something that I do every day in my life, but there's certainly a lot of the basic principles of it that I like to try and apply in my life. And I've actually done some research on it, and I want to read to you what they say around the Stoic perspective.
Yeah.
The Stoic perspective is that our ultimate purpose in life is to act virtuously, to focus on what we can control, our choices and our actions to serve the common good. To Stoics, the echo in eternity was never about fame, but about the lasting effect of a life well lived.
Oh my word.
I love that.
Now that you told me what it is, I would believe that a lot of those principles apply to my life, and that I think I will continue to aspire to those.
Yes.
And then probably eventually would like to categorize myself as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I think about it even further, if I bring the intentionality component into it, is that in life, our actions are fleeting. They investments in our future like ripples in a pond. What do you think of that?
That's heavy. And that is, there's a beautiful Afrikaans word for that, ewigheidswaarde.
Yeah.
I've got no idea what it is in English. Let me say it again, ewigheidswaarde. And
direct translation, eternal value, but I don't think it describes it.
No.
Really good, yeah.
But I think it's close enough. And I think it brings us back to, and my initial thinking in preparation for today around this comment of the movie, or this quote rather, was, well, how do you define eternity? And do you care that your actions today do matter in eternity? Do you care about the ripple effect? Or are you very much living in the here and the now and it's all about today? I've met many people who don't care about tomorrow. They kind of believe that tomorrow is tomorrow and it'll sort itself out. But how can I be in the here and the now and in the present? Which I do believe there is value in that as well. You know, living in the present and not always chasing. And I mean, you and I have spoken about performance anxiety and wanting to be the best. And is there ever enough? Which is something that we will get to today as well.
Yeah,
we will get to that.
Very interesting. That
you know, but this concept of the ripple effect, and then I think of reach. Am I able, through who I am, the choices I make, the understanding and the awareness of my impact, am I able to realize one that I can reach, probably far beyond than what I intended to or will be aware of, which starts touching on the concept of legacy. But then secondly, if it then is so and I am proactive about it, or intentional rather, how can I positively influence it?
Okay, I want to explore all of those things, and I really want us to get to this point of legacy, the actual subject of today's conversation. But there's one last thing that I just want to quickly touch on before we get there. You spoke about belief.
Yeah.
You spoke about ewigheidswaarde,
Yes.
eternal value.
Yes.
There's something else in that quote that we never mentioned in the previous episode, and we haven't spoken about it yet. And that is the religious theme behind it, the theology behind it.
Yes.
Because if you think about it, that is something, if that's your belief, what we do in life echoes in eternity. What we do in this life is what brings you eternity from a religious point of view.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think let's be perfectly clear that both you and I are Christians. And so we have a perspective, we have a paradigm. But that's not everybody's perspective and paradigm, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think back to my initial point earlier around how do you define eternity and then therefore legacy. From the Christian or any religious perspective, that could be where do I go when I leave this earth?
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so what I then therefore do here has an impact on that destination. Now, interesting from the Christian perspective, and this is not going to be a religious podcast, but one sentence is, what we do does not actually determine our eternity. It's not about actions.
Exactly.
And so therefore, there is a slight link here, but I don't think a direct translation into, okay, well, if you're a Christian or any sort of religion that believes in going somewhere else, at least from the Christian perspective, it's not about action. Some other religions are very much so around actions and what I must do to earn it. The Christian faith is not like that. But when you think of eternity and the impact that it can have, I believe personally that I would love to bring the eternal value there into my here and now. So can I bring heaven to earth in my close circle and in the way that I operate?
I love it.
Yeah.
Last thought from my side on that. It's not what we do in life on earth that gets us the eternal life.
No.
We get the eternal life because we believe, but because of that, we do things on earth that reflects our faith and our beliefs.
Love it.
And the life we want to live.
Correct.
The virtuous life we want to live.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let's put that aside. Let's talk about legacy. And maybe the first way that I want to think about legacy is an interesting one that I've come across in the past. And that is asking somebody to write their own eulogy. Or is it a eulogy or obituary? Well, I think obituary is the one you write, and the eulogy is what somebody says at your funeral.
About
Am I right?
you.
Yes.
About you, yes.
So have you ever thought that if you should pass away, what do you think it is people are going to say at your funeral one day about you? Isn't that what legacy is about?
I think firstly, when I was confronted with that thought, I was confronted with two feelings. A sense of fear and then a sense of action. The fear being, I will not be there to hear it. And so on the day, I cannot influence it.
Yeah.
But then the good news is, well, what can I then do now to be able to influence that? So that would be my first comment. Secondly, I would love to be able to predict and then influence what someone would say from where I'm sitting right now.
But hold on, wouldn't you agree with me that the mere framing of thinking about how you want to live your life, if you frame it in the way that you think about what somebody's going to say one day at your funeral, and because of that, it might influence the way you live, that already helps you in shaping your own legacy in your life.
Absolutely. And that's the proactive action side that I was referring to.
Exactly.
If I then know what I would like someone to say, how can I start living in such a way right now that is the truth? Because I think therein lies, I've been to funerals where I was actually irritated with what was being said.
Let me guess why.
Yes.
Because you felt, hold on, this isn't the person I knew.
100%.
Yes, I felt the same way.
This is not the person that they are describing.
Exactly.
And then I'm going, how authentic and real is this? Or is the purpose of this for something else?
Yeah.
Is the purpose of this to soothe and calm those that were left behind? But then if you know this person really well, you'll feel the same way that I'm feeling as I'm listening to it. Yeah. And I think that is the part that I would hate for me to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody has to stand up there, be authentic, be honest, be truthful, and say things about you that you wouldn't have to hear if you were there.
Yeah. You know, I was at a 40th birthday the other day. By the way, my first 40th that I attended, I felt really old.
All right.
Right. And it's a dear friend of mine. It's our pastor. And he went around in a circle and he kind of had a one-liner for all his friends and family there. And he said his one-liner about me. And on my way home, Ilana asked me, are you happy with what he said? And I said, well, it's interesting that you would ask that. Share more. And she said, well, I thought he would say something different. And in the moment, I answered her with, no, I think what he said is his perspective and true and valid. But what I actually then a couple of weeks later realized is what he said, I have an influence over. And what he said is his perspective and his interaction with me, backward looking. But if he had to do the same speech when he's 50 or 60, would he say the same thing about me? And the good news is we can influence that. Yeah. To an extent, Absolutely. To a large extent, we can influence that.
Now, you've brought up ages, 50, 60, you spoke about it, 40th birthday. Here's a very interesting one for you. I don't think I ever started thinking about legacy and my legacy before the age of 50.
Sure.
You're 37 now?
38.
38, sorry. Yeah. 38 at the moment. Do you ever find yourself thinking of legacy? And be honest, even before this episode and before we suggested we speak about legacy, is that something you've ever thought about?
It's such a good question, and I'm going to answer you truthfully. The first time I thought about it is when I heard I'm going to be a dad.
Okay.
Before that, never. And I think I framed it from the perspective, how would I like Isla to remember me? Now, little side note, some of the audience members know this, but I've got a heart condition. I've had 2 heart operations. I'm perfectly fine. I go for my checkup every year. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not on a ticking time bomb. But I am aware, because quick side note, we all have a line in the sand, right? We don't know what that line is, but everybody's going to die. And it might be this afternoon on the N1. It might be in 50 years' time from now, calmly in your sleep. But there is an end line for all of us, unless you believe in eternal life. Physical eternal life, which I don't, by the way. My line has been accentuated for me, at least in my own mind, that if I were to die from some sort of heart thing, no one will be surprised because they'll go, oh yeah, Fran had 2 heart operations. He had a condition. Okay, so now I'm living a very intentional life, super passionate. People who know me closely will know this. I show up, the way I'm speaking now, I show up on the golf course, I show up at Whamley, I show up in my marriage, wherever I go, this is me. Like, I deeply love life. And one of the reasons why I am like this is because I am aware that life is fleeting. I'm aware of the perspective of time, given just who I am. So, okay, back to legacy. So I'm on this mission, just living my life to the fullest. Every day is the last day. I want to go to bed tonight and go, what a great day. And never regret a day, or at least if there is regret, learn from it. And so I become a dad. And it took us long. Okay, if you don't know, go and listen to the previous episode on fatherhood. So I'm confronted with 2 things, my age, and I'm confronted with the impact that I can have on Isla, and what is she going to remember me for? And for me, that I think indirectly or subconsciously was my first confrontation with the concept of legacy.
Okay, but that happened in your 30s.
Yes.
And your situation is slightly different maybe from a lot of other people.
Yes.
I will give you my perspective.
Please do.
It's difficult to remember if I ever thought about legacy in my 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Even in my 40s. The first time I ever really seriously thought about my legacy and what my legacy is going to look like was a short while after my 50th birthday. And here's what happened. And it was really profound in my life. I would almost call it life-changing.
Sure.
It was almost as if after my 50th birthday, there was this shift. And by the way, it's fundamental to the podcast that I started and to what we're doing here today. It was a discussion I had with a very good friend of ours who talked to me after this 50th birthday about, are you happy with your life? Are you happy with what you've achieved, the success you've reached, the relationships you've got, the experiences you've experienced in your life? And the whole conversation the whole time was, yes, you know, I'm fairly satisfied with where I am in my life, in all those aspects of my life. And then the question was, what next?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it a moment because I didn't understand the question. What do you mean, what next? What's like next for Paul Kempf in his life in his 50s?
Yeah.
And then that person asked me that question. He said, I'm talking about your legacy.
Okay.
What's going to be your legacy? And that's when you realize, which happened to me at 50, that it's all good and well having all of these things in your life experiences, wealth, success, all of these things.
Relationships.
But there's something more to life. And that happened to me at 50. And that's when I started thinking about what is it that's going to be remembered about me, and not just what are my kids going to remember about me when I'm gone, but what is there that I can put out into this world that might make a difference, have a legacy, have an impact on people.
Yeah.
And that's how this podcast started.
Sure.
And that's one of the reasons why I said to you, let's just explore this topic of legacy today, because I think it's so important. And whether it happens to you in your 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, whenever you start thinking about this concept of legacy, I think it's an important phase in your life. It's almost like a new season in your life when you go into, where legacy starts being more important than some other things that was important earlier in your life.
I think this is a beautiful segue for us, because we haven't done it yet, to discover, uncover, unpack, curate what legacy means for us.
Yes, that's what I want to do.
Because we keep on saying this with golden nuggets around it or one-liners, but to properly understand the impact of this conversation for the listener, they also need to go and decide and uncover what it means for them.
Yeah.
And maybe our perspectives can help. We're not saying we're right.
Theirs could be very different.
Correct. So, Paul, what is it for you?
So here's the first one. And there's a couple.
Yeah.
My first one that I realized was moving into a legacy phase of my life, a new season of my life, was almost for me like moving from an accumulation phase to a distribution phase.
Oh, my word.
So what I mean by that is, for the first 50 years, you accumulate things. Obviously, you accumulate wealth, hopefully, success, status, assets, relationships, experiences. These are the kind of things you accumulate in your life. And then you reach a certain point in your life where, of course, you can accumulate more. You never have to stop accumulating. But maybe the distribution part of life becomes more important.
Sure.
What is it that you can give to this world? What is the impact you can have? What is the difference you can make in people's lives? How can you influence people's lives positively? How can you share, not just money, not just wealth, but how can you share wisdom, love, experience? For me, the first part of legacy was moving from accumulation phase to a distribution phase. What was it for you?
Well, I first want to respond to that because I think it's so profound. As you're talking, I'm thinking, why do you need to accumulate first? And then I started answering myself, if I don't have experience, I cannot share it.
Correct.
If I don't have wisdom, I cannot share it. The obvious one is if I don't have wealth, I can't share it.
Yeah.
I think there are certain elements that don't need accumulation before distribution, like time,
Correct.
gratitude, friendliness, awareness, listening, showing up, being there for others, which for me links back to a fundamental element that I believe I started focusing on from a young age, which might have set me up from an age perspective to start dealing with some of these elements early in my life. And that is this concept of awareness, self-awareness. So when you're aware of how you show up, who you are, and look, I don't get it right all the time. Like, absolutely not. But at least I'm aware of it. And I think the awareness helps and assists with the distribution component. But what a profound concept to think of. There's give and take. In your scenario, take and give. Love it. Brilliant.
I'll give you a second one. I think before you get to this part of your life where you start thinking about legacy, for me, there's a lot of goals.
Yeah.
Things you want to reach, things you want to achieve in your life. And again, those goals could be very different for different people. But usually those goals are very short term.
Mm.
And with the word goals, I want to add the word instant gratification.
Yes.
there's a lot of instant gratification. And again, I don't want to get into the generational discussion. I don't want to anger a lot of young people listening here by saying the young people are all about instant gratification.
Yeah.
Okay, I've said it now, but let's get past that. But to me, there's a phase around short-term goals and instant gratification. Legacy doesn't fit in there.
No.
The moment you go into the legacy phase, for me, it changes. It firstly changes into more long-term goals. It's now no longer what do I want to achieve this year, what do I want to achieve next 5 years. It's about what do I want to be known for 20, 30, 40 years from now? What do I want to be remembered for when I'm dead one day? That's a longer time horizon.
Yeah.
So it's a longer time horizon in terms of goals. And then for me, the second thing, moving away from the instant gratification, is much more about impact.
Yeah.
It's much more about what it is that you are doing for other people in this world, what impact you're having, what difference you are making, than the gratification part of what am I getting out of the world. To me, that's the second part of legacy.
So I'm hearing you define it for yourself as the following. 1, it's not the short term, it's the long term. 2, it's the distribution of what I have accumulated.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it's the impact that you can have in your close circle, but potentially also in wider circles, like employees working at FFG or someone you see once a year at the Katu Tour golf tour. Like they only engage with you once a year, but there's an impact that you can have in the next 4 days on that individual that's lasting.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
No, it's very fair.
From a definition perspective for yourself?
Yeah, but here's an interesting one I think is very relevant to the two of us right now. Doesn't that also place a lot of responsibility on you and how you show up?
Absolutely.
Even if it's just on a golf tour.
No, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that come to mind for me when I think about legacy is this concept of a pyramid, right? And you could, if you're Maslow, you could put self-actualization at the top. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to put legacy at the top. And I'm going to say right at the bottom is an unaware, reactive, short-term, day-to-day life choice. And I know many people who live like this. They cannot wait for Fridays. They dread Mondays. They cannot wait for Decembers. They dread going back to work. They cannot wait for their kids to get out of diapers. They cannot wait for more money in the bank. And they're always just chasing not the next big thing, because big things aren't part of their lives. They're chasing instant gratification. When can I just feel better? And in a way, if you accelerate this concept into the future, you're basically wishing your life away.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then you reach a certain point where you then start talking about dying a lot. That has been so crazy for me, witnessing some older, and I mean, I'm not young, but I'm young. I'm witnessing older individuals speaking about their own death a lot, as if they're anticipating that this season I'm in now is my sunset. Right? And my friend here died at this age. And did you hear about that guy? He just fell over while riding his bike on a heart attack. And like, they're talking about death. And so that for me is the bottom of the pyramid. And then as you start moving up this pyramid towards legacy, consciousness, awareness, goals, habits, feedback from people that love you and don't mind giving you that feedback, start shaping your ability to leave a legacy. Now, before I go to my definition of that, what do you think about my pyramid concept?
No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And here's another thing about it. It makes me also think of, again, moving towards legacy. The first part, which is not about legacy. No, hold on. Let me just think this through. A lot of people are going to say it's about legacy, but I think the first part is about what you've built in your life.
Yeah.
And some of it could be about legacy. But while the first part is about what you have built, the second part for me, where legacy comes in, is about who you've lifted in this world.
Oof, that's good.
So I love your idea of a pyramid. I love the way you described it. I think that's a little bit of what you've built in your life. But I think there's that transition that takes place somewhere in your life where it's less about what you've built and more about who you have lifted, who you've had an impact on.
Back to your concept of distribution.
Yes, absolutely.
So when I think of legacy, I frame it from the perspective of everlasting impact. Okay? But the everlasting is not when I'm dead only. It is the everlasting impact when you had a season with me in whatever shape or form. And here's the reality, legacy is not always positive. If you had to categorize the word globally into is this a positive or a negative thing, I think 99% of our minds would go to positive, right? Your legacy, it's a good thing. Guess what? It can be the exact opposite. And I hear so many people who use their surname to actually describe the negative side of that. Maar ons de wet is maar so.
Yeah.
You know?
We've spoken about
we
this
have
before.
spoken about
right,
this.
yeah.
So, everlasting impact in the here and the now, and in the everlasting or in the future or when I am gone, I think is back to your word around the impact. Like my legacy as Francois is what was my impact when you interacted with me? And then I'm fully aware that it can both be positive and negative.
Yes.
Which then places such a big emphasis on the responsibility, back to my comment around awareness, on how do I show up.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Now, what I have let go of at the age of 38 is this concept of perfection. Because the anxiety around I can now therefore never show up in a negative way is just unrealistic and not attainable. And so therefore, I would then rather just be super open and honest and vulnerable about my flaws. To say, listen, this is who I am. If you want to get to know me, I'm going to show you who I am. But you can expect a chirp, a swear word, a third glass of wine every now and again, and then a lot of positive things. And then you can also know that I'm super aware of where I want to work on myself and where I'm continuously allowing for feedback and input into my life. But this is the whole me. And then therefore...
The authentic you.
The authentic me. And then therefore, I hope to find platforms where the legacy side, the impact side can play out.
There's something about that that's important. And that's something I realized very late in my life. When you do that, you risk not everybody liking you.
Yes.
You risk offending some people.
Yes.
But that's such an important part of this whole conversation around legacy. That's fine. Not everybody has to like you.
No.
Not everybody has to be your friend.
Yeah.
You know, some people will choose to say, but I don't like this Francois guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's too arrogant, or he's too this, or he's too that, or too straight. But that's fine.
Yeah.
It's important to understand not everybody has to like the legacy that you are leaving.
Everybody leaves a legacy, but not the one that we are trying to define.
Yeah. Not always positive.
Not
sometimes
always positive.
Negative.
Yes.
Can I take it a little bit further?
Yes.
I think everybody leaves a legacy, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. But I also think there's another distinction. I think there's something like a micro and a macro legacy. And what I mean by that is almost everybody is going to leave a micro legacy.
Yeah.
A micro legacy is one where either positive or negative, you have had an influence on the people closest to you, your family and your closest friends, maybe your colleagues at work. They will remember you at least for a few years. I'm not saying forever. That's a micro legacy, and I think everybody leaves a micro legacy. But I think there's something else. I think there's something called a macro legacy, where you are remembered a little bit beyond your circle of friends, your family, your colleagues, where you have done something or left something in this world or had an impact on this world that extends just beyond that circle that I'm talking about. And I think it's for everybody to decide, for all of our listeners, for all of our viewers to decide, what is it that I want to leave?
Yeah.
Am I comfortable with just leaving a micro legacy? Nothing wrong with that.
Correct.
Or do I want to do something in this world, build a business, write a book, paint a painting? I don't know what it is. Do something that will have that bigger legacy, that macro legacy in the world. What do you think of that idea?
I love that. I would frame it as short-term and long-term. Anybody who dies will be remembered by someone the next day. Few people will be remembered 40 years later.
Takes us back to the quote.
It does. And I think therefore, and it links back to our concept of eternity, is maybe not anything that you do will echo in the eternity of others. It might echo in your own eternity. But some things that some people choose to do will echo in others' eternity. Yeah. In other words, generations. I think the work that the world will forever know the name Elon Musk and Donald Trump, regardless. They will go into history books.
Whether good or bad.
Whether good or bad. They will go into history books. They will be studied about. AI will bring them up, quote them, criticize them. The world will forever remember Charlie Kirk, right? Not just the way he died, but also his work, his legacy work that he was doing across the campuses in the US. Here's the question then. Do you need a macro legacy?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. It's a choice.
It's a choice.
Do you want to leave one?
Yes.
Is that something that you're going to intentionally do things in your life that could potentially leave a macro legacy?
Yeah.
Now, I think everybody maybe has it inherently somewhere in their life. It's not inside them. It's not something that's always easy to bring out. I think it's easy to claim everybody can write a book or everybody can paint an amazing painting. I don't think it's necessarily true.
No.
But I do think that everybody has the potential to have a macro legacy.
Yeah.
It's just about finding what yours is going to be.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I know that. I will never be able to paint a beautiful picture or write a beautiful song. I've just made peace with that.
I know this when I also see you chipping and putting.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was unnecessary. We're in the same team. But the point here is I chose to do a podcast and YouTube channel. And whether that YouTube channel is going to be never watched again when I'm dead is irrelevant. It's the way that I chose to do a small little something that has the potential to have a macro legacy.
And you know where the most obvious impact of that could be? Is if Keanu or Tiani has kids and you are not around and they can come and listen to their grandfather speak and impart wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah, there you go.
So even that is the impact and the effect of a potential legacy. I asked the question, should or should we not? And I think it does go back to the decisions that you make. While I'm thinking about our conversation, I'm also thinking about, well, if we were to get our closest friends and family in a room and ask them about our legacy right now while we're alive, one, what would they say? Would it be in correlation with what we hope they would say? And if not, what are we going to do about it?
It would be a very interesting experience because here's the one concern or the one risk. Let's call it a risk. If you do that now while you're alive, it has the potential of identifying your blind spots.
Yes.
And that's not always easy to hear.
It's not fun to look in the mirror.
I've experienced it before.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not always easy. But there is a risk that they will tell you a lot of things that you want to hear about yourself, but they might tell you one or two things that you don't want to hear about yourself.
Which, as the coach and industrial psych in me would say, is a very, very useful exercise. Yeah. If you want to hear the feedback. Because remember, feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
If you don't care about the feedback, then, well, so be it. You carry on with building whatever the legacy is that you are building. The other thing that comes to mind for me while we're having this conversation around legacy is this concept of, do I need X, Y, and Z, and therefore I can only create a legacy? Or do people don't remember what you said. People remember how you made them feel. And I don't need anything to make you feel in a specific way when you're with me. I've heard, the other day, I listened to a podcast. It was phenomenal. It was of, who is our famous comedian who went to the States?
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah had a conversation with, it's shocking that I can't remember their names. It might be the whiskey.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek. Did you listen to it?
I did, and I know what you're talking about.
Right? And he spoke about his mother.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said, and he was describing her legacy long after the fact. And he spoke about how she made homeless people feel for years, consistently how she made them feel. And I'm driving and I'm listening to this and I'm going, you need nothing as Trevor's mom to make someone at the robot feel in a particular way that many years later he's bringing up as part of why he is who he is. And I thought that is so profound.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go to, well, I'm not a millionaire, so I can't leave a legacy for my grandchildren. Or I don't have the privilege of going to study, so I don't have a lot of wisdom. And. But maybe the effect of deciding the type of human that you want to be, is you crafting and building your legacy. That might have a macro effect and not just a micro effect.
It's a great description of legacy, but it also makes me think of something else. Legacy can be money.
Yes.
But there's a big but here. History, statistics have shown that people that have built a lot of wealth, when they pass away and they pass that wealth on to the next generation, that wealth is often squandered by the next generation.
100%.
Not always, but often.
A lot of times.
Which means you've built all this wealth, all this business, this success, and then the legacy is only limited to the amount of time that the people that followed you kept that wealth going.
Yeah.
Which means your legacy is limited.
Yeah.
But if your legacy is something else than wealth, it has the potential of lasting a lot longer. And that's why I read this somewhere, and I think it's so profound. When you leave a lot of money, it's not a legacy. It's just an inheritance. A legacy is something else.
It's something else.
Yeah.
You know, going back to Ayla, my daughter, if I could choose right now, I think, do I leave her a lot of money, or do I leave her with a feeling that she had when she was around me that's everlasting? It's an obvious winner.
Both would be
But
nice.
can I leave her with both?
Yeah, there you go.
Can I leave her with both? And then on the financial side of things, can I also leave her with principles and standards around how to deal with money?
Yeah.
And how to apply herself. Funny story, my dad made us present to him a budget for our pocket money when we were 13 years old.
That's amazing.
Around what are we going to do with our pocket money? And then he never gave us what we wanted. And he would challenge our thinking. He would challenge our, expense plan of where we're going to spend the pocket money. But he also gave us free rein. So my middle brother would take some of the pocket money that were distributed or allocated for clothes, and he would go and buy like a lot of variations at retail stores like Mr. Price or whatever. And I would take it, I would go and buy one jean and one t-shirt at Levi's. And then my dad would allow that, but he would tell me that your brother has got 5 more outfits than you have. And he would just say that. And 20 years later, those concepts still remain with me. And that for me is part of my dad's legacy. It's not what he left me. It's so small little things that he imparted in us as boys around how to live life, as an example.
Okay, I've got a next question for you.
Go for it.
When's enough?
Never. There is no such thing as enough. Let me qualify. If you are forever chasing whatever it is, you will never reach the point of enough. Which then challenges us to go, do I want to chase? What am I chasing? And what is my definition of enough? That would be my initial answer.
Let me challenge that.
Okay.
We're different ages. We're at different stages, different seasons of our lives. And we're allowed to think differently about these things.
We should.
I'm genuinely starting to think a lot about when is enough. And here's the reason why. And again, I've been stressing so much the point of legacy and not necessarily wealth, assets, money, success.
Yeah.
But let's for a moment talk about wealth and money and assets and success. I think it's something we have to be so careful of in our lives. Because if we keep on chasing more, if enough is never enough, isn't there a risk of us reaching a point where we never start working on our legacy, number one? But number two, this drive, this ambition to always have more causes us to get to a point in our life where we can never enjoy what we've got, where we can never just say, let me enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Yeah.
I've got a big fear, and I'm going to share it with you now. And I think if my son Keanu and my daughter Tiani hears this, they're not going to like this. But my big fear is that I keep on working, I keep on building, I keep on trying to get more and more. I never stop. And because of this rat race that we're in, I get a heart attack, I pass away, and they get all the money.
Yes.
That just doesn't feel fair to me.
No. And I think we're saying the same thing, just by the way. If your definition of enough is never enough, you're never going to stop chasing.
Exactly. That's the point I was trying to make, yeah.
But we should move away from this idea of this bottomless pit of rat race and chasing, because it will then therefore never be enough, and you will never be satisfied, and you will never get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
Now, legacy building, I do not believe is a destination. I think it is a journey.
I agree with that, but let me just quickly say something, and then you can go on. Another reason why when is enough is such an important conversation, and why I'm having this conversation around legacy is, not only do I think you need to at some point in time say, enough is enough, let's stop now. If you don't do it, you risk leaving the wrong legacy, the negative legacy, the inheritance, instead of the legacy that you actually want to leave. And that is something I've been thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
Is what's next? What else do I want to achieve in life?
Yeah.
Is it really just making more money, being more successful? Or is there something else to this whole legacy conversation?
Paul, I think we should do a separate episode in the future around the world of work and why do we work? Because I often am also confronted with, I'm going to work to achieve something, and then when I achieve it, I can finally stop working and enjoy my life.
Yeah.
Which implies, therefore, that you didn't enjoy your life, you just worked to reach this enoughness so that you can start enjoying your life.
I know where you're going with this, but sorry, isn't that what a lot of people do?
It's what the majority of people do. And that's my point. And then back to my earlier point around racing through Mondays to Fridays, racing through to December holidays, racing actually all the way up until retirement, reaching it and then going, I can't travel because I need a hip replacement, or my cholesterol is too high, or I'm not allowed to fly because of asthma, or whatever the case might be. I'm exaggerating, but
I can't carry my own suitcase if I go overseas, so I can't go.
Exactly. Or I'm too overweight to get on a ferry, So I think a reframe of all of this, and this is why this is such a complex conversation. I'm loving it, by the way, but a reframe around, why are you doing what you're doing? And I, for a long time, as Francois, I was doing stuff to please other people. And I never stopped to consider, but one, who am I doing this for? I knew the why, but who am I doing it for? And then what is the impact thereof if I look forward into this journey which we call life? And again, Isla was a big marker for me, a realization around seriously considering that and looking in the mirror and asking myself those questions. So to your point, enough is enough. If you don't define that for yourself, you'll never stop chasing. That's the world we live in, Paul. You spoke about instant gratification earlier. I've been quite vocal the last couple of weeks, especially after the Charlie Kirk murder or assassination, about the impact of social media. I just believe social media is killing the world. It is a bottomless pit that is racing at the speed of AI, and it's got no good in it. And this cycle of instant gratification, social media, being bombarded with information, and setting these unrealistic expectations around wealth, success, legacy, at what age can you achieve it? Let's not forget, 10 years of experience takes 10 years, right? We spoke about that in episode 1 of our masterclass. And so you need to, if you take anything away from this episode, I believe you should seriously consider the impact of enoughness in your life and what are you chasing.
And how social media works against that.
Oh, my word.
Because it's always a comparison game. Social media is a comparison game.
Toxic.
It's about, look at what somebody else has, what they've achieved, how young they are, what they look like. And it's never real. It's never authentic.
That's the one negative side of it, which is a massive, massive part. The other negative side of it is it has given the whole world an equal voice. Now, this is a controversial statement, but I do not believe that all people should have an equal voice. Now, we don't have enough time for us to unpack that
today.
Maybe but there's a bold statement. Not everybody should have the same equal voice.
It sounds terrible, but I understand where you're coming from. I really do.
And those are the two negative sides around social media.
All right, let's leave that for the next episode. I've got one more question for you.
Yes.
And I think it's a good one. It builds on this whole question of enough is enough. Or when's enough?
Yeah.
Around legacy. And here's my question for you, because it's again something I've been thinking about a lot. Is it ever okay to stop growing?
I think, and this is going to sound slightly philosophical, but I think for both those statements, the word growth and the word enough should be defined for yourself as the listener, right? But let's imagine you could define it. I do believe there is a time where you can stop growing.
And start enjoying.
And giving. It's the same with the accumulation and the distribution.
That's what I'm trying to get
grow, give.
Yeah.
And I think of a tree. It can only bear fruit when it's at a specific growth age. Then it can bear fruit. You're not going to plant an avocado seed and it's going to produce avos immediately, or oranges, or whatever fruit that you love. It needs growth, it needs water, it needs sun, it needs nurture, it needs care, it needs wind, it needs to shed some leaves. And then at some point, it's ready to bear fruit. And I think if you think of life, maybe a different way to answer, when is enough enough? Maybe another answer is, well, the day you die. But then you've defined enough as growing and giving, and growing and giving, and growing and giving until the day I die. And whether that is a micro or macro impact, it's your choice. But be aware of the privilege that we have to be able to grow and give.
Yeah. You've made a controversial statement. I'm going to make one as well.
Go for it.
I've come to realize that growth, self-improvement, ambition, wanting to be a better version of yourself, being more intentional every day about what you achieve, all of those things are wonderful, but they're selfish. It's all about you.
Yes.
It's all about you wanting to be something better, something more, achieving more. And that's why I've been thinking about this a lot. That at some point in time, you must say, that's enough. I'm content. I don't mind improving certain parts of my life, especially my golf game. But it's now more about what can I do with what I have achieved, how much I've grown, how much I've improved to create a legacy.
Yes.
To me, that's where maybe the growth doesn't necessarily stop, because that was my question to you. But certainly the point where the growth and the self-improvement becomes less important.
Yes.
And it's more about now, what can I do to give back?
Oh, I love that. I cannot think of a better place to end this episode. The moment you realize, and by the way, for those who are of faith listening and for those who aren't of faith listening, if you are religious, that's the whole point. It's not about you. And if you're not religious, then it's still the point.
It's not about you.
It's not about you. And if everybody has that mentality, guess what? Everybody's buckets is full. Have you thought about that? If I decide to pour the water I have in my bucket into yours and not care about mine, and you do the exact same to me, we will constantly have full buckets of water. And that's where power distance and differences in socioeconomic statuses and all, most of the problems in the world stem from this idea of I'm better, or me, the selfish nature. Another episode topic, and we're getting quite creative with thinking of other.
I think it's whiskey.
Are people inherently good or bad? Park that one.
Yeah.
We should try and unpack that. Are people inherently good or bad? Viktor Frankl, a famous psychologist who wrote this book called Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
And he believed that humans are inherently good.
That's right.
But there still remains a huge inclination to move towards the self. Whether that is social media, pressure, performance anxiety, we can uncover that. But I think, to your point, to close off with, what a beautiful way to think of enoughness and growth is to say, well, how can I balance the meanness with others.
Love it. It feels to me as if we can keep going for 4 hours. It really does.
Yeah.
But I think at some point we've got to stop.
Yeah.
Otherwise we have to fill up the glasses again. Francois, this has been amazing. Thank you for helping me unpack this topic of legacy, for helping me understand the things that I'm thinking about at the moment around legacy and about my legacy in the future. It really was a great discussion. I think it was a crucial discussion.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining me here in the studio.
I wish we could do this every day. We only get to do it once a month. I wish we could do this every day. It's been a beautiful conversation and it's made me think a lot. I think to close off with from my side, I'm left, and I'm hoping that 1 or 2 listeners will be left with, and by the way, well done if you made it until the very end of the episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's made me think of the impact and the control that I do have over this topic and the privilege. I'm going to define it not as a burden or as pressure, but as a privilege to be able to determine my legacy.
And let me end off by saying, let's help each other on this journey.
Yes.
And one of the things I want to ask you is let's help each other identify our blind spots, which we spoke about before, so that we can be more effective in terms of the positive legacy we want to leave in this world.
And how we show up.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Paul.
That's it for this week. If you enjoyed this intentional masterclass, please subscribe. Please share it on social media. Share it with somebody that you think will find value in what we have shared and spoken about today. And until next time, stay intentional. You've been listening to Intentionality, where we grow together. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a rating. And if this helped you today, share it with someone else on the same journey. Until next time, keep showing up with intention.